Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
This week's Torah portion is called Korach. It comes from the middle of Sefer Bamidbar, the book of Numbers, and it will give us a lot to talk about at Torah study tomorrow morning. Here is a preview. We are wandering in the wilderness, and once again, we are feeling rebellious. This is no surprise. God has not called us the stiff-necked people for nothing. We, the Israelites, have already built the golden calf. We've demanded meat instead of manna. And we spread rumors about the giant warriors living in the promised land. And it won't be long before our complaints of thirst drive Moses to strike the rock. But of all of our rebellions, this one is different. This rebellion has a clear leader, Korach, a member of the tribe of Levi. He's actually the cousin of Moses and Aaron. Korach gathers 250 Anshe Shem, literally men of great name, people who are respected, admired, trusted, and he helps them turn the entire community against Moses and Aaron. Korach is not like the other rebels we've met so far. He's not consumed by the fear that Moses isn't coming back from Mount Sinai and has left his people lost and leaderless in the desert. Korach is not sick of manna. He's not craving meat. He's not afraid of the giant Anakites living in the promised land that his people will soon enter. Korach doesn't even ask for water. He's not even thirsty. Korach's rebellion is different from every rebellion the Israelites have mounted before, and every rebellion that will come after. Korach's rebellion is not spontaneous. It is meticulously planned. It is not motivated by anxiety or hunger or thirst. It is motivated by a desire for power. Korach's rebellion is organized. Korach's rebellion is methodical. Korach's rebellion is scary. Today we might even call it an insurrection. If you want to know what happens next, or if you already know but want to talk about it, definitely come to Torah study tomorrow at 11 a.m. The Zoom link is in your Tuesday message for the temple email. Because for now, I'm almost done talking about Korach. I'm about to start talking about marijuana. Wait, what? Yes, you heard that correctly. I'm about to start talking about marijuana. I know that sounds weird. Why in the first Shabbat sermon delivered in the sanctuary since March 2020 is one of your rabbis going to start talking about marijuana? And if you know me, it sounds even weirder. I mean, we just got back from a family vacation in Colorado of all places, and I didn't indulge in anything stronger than a glass of wine at a couple of dinners. But please bear with me. This next part, it isn't political. I'm not advocating for or against legalizing marijuana or anything like that. What follows, it's just Torah Lishma, learning for the sake of learning. It's based on a brand new study by the scholar Peter Margolis, a study that was published only 2 weeks ago. A study that was the most brilliant thing I've read in quite a while. It just made me say, wow. It made me look at the texts I've read 100 times and see them anew. I loved it, and I really want to share it with you. I hope you'll love it too. You know how in the Old West movies, or Hamilton, enemies settle their differences with a duel? 10 paces, turn, and fire? Well, Korach's rebellion is settled in a similar way. Korach and his followers bring forth their copper fire pans. They put fire inside. They lay incense on top. Moses and Aaron do the same. They take their copper fire pans, put fire inside, and lay incense on top. And the victor will be the one whose incense God accepts. Even if you aren't familiar with the Torah portion, you probably know who wins. I'll give you a hint. It's not Korach. But even if you're super familiar with this Torah portion, I bet you don't know what was in that incense. I didn't know. But the scholar Peter Margolis, He knows. He thinks it was cannabis. I think he's right. Here's why. Did you know that in the centuries before the Common Era, when the Bible was still being written and the first temple still stood in Jerusalem, cannabis was used in worship rituals throughout the Near East? The historian Herodotus even relates a practice of semi-nomads who set up tents and threw cannabis on heated rocks so that the tent was filled with its vapor. That's not so different from the way Aaron was enveloped by the clouds of warm incense in the tent of meeting. And did you know that the word cannabis may well be derived from the Hebrew words kan, meaning cane, and balsam, meaning fragrant? Kan balsam, cannabis. The term kan balsam even appears in the book of Exodus as an ingredient in the fragrant oil used to anoint the priests. And yes, balsam is the same root as besamim, that word we sing in the Havdalah blessing, borei minei besamim, when we praise God as a creator of fragrant spices. And did you know that the first word in kan balsam, kan, occurs 5 times in the Bible? Each time it refers to the incense burned as an offering to God. That incense is part of the reach nihoach, the pleasing fragrance that God commanded to accompany the Israelite sacrifice. And did you know that the Mishnah uses the word cannabis, and that cognates in the languages of Sanskrit and Assyrio-Babylonian refer absolutely, definitively, unmistakably to cannabis? Finally, did you know that in the 8th century before the Common Era, in the southern part of the land of Israel, of Tel Arad, far away from the temple in Jerusalem, at Tel Arad, our ancestors set up a satellite temple, a mini temple, where they offered sacrifices and burned incense. When the land of Israel was conquered by the Babylonians in the 6th century before the Common Era, the mini temple at Tel Arad, it was abandoned. It lay unused, forgotten, buried. After 2,500 years, 2,500 years, archaeologists finally found this mini temple and they excavated it. And guess what they discovered at Tel Arad on its ancient Israelite altar? They discovered fragments of cannabis. Here's a photo I took of Tel Arad when I visited with my family in 2016. You can see it for yourself pretty soon. We'll be going there on our Israel trip this spring. Here's the altar, but there's no cannabis left. Isn't that amazing? I'm telling you, it was the best biblical scholarship I've read in quite a while. Thanks for letting me share it with you. Now, I guess you could spin this study and you could say, see, cannabis has been a part of Jewish life in the past, so we should use it too. Or you could say, cannabis was only used for worship in the past, so it should be off limits, or at least highly regulated. But neither of those is what made me say, wow. Neither one of those is what I love about this study. Here's what I love about this study, and here's why I wanted to share it with you tonight. This study focuses on incense offered by ancient Israelite priests. It's something that's so easy to overlook, something that might seem uninteresting or irrelevant, something that we tend to gloss over. I've read the book of Numbers a lot. I've read passages like this a lot, so many times, and I've not thought twice about what might be in that incense. But Peter Margolis, he didn't overlook it. He paid attention. He said, this is worthy of my time. He said, I want to focus on this. He said, I bet there's something brand new in here. He took something we might not have noticed, and he noticed it. He made it fascinating. So here we are. We're just coming out of our shells, out of our houses, out of our comfort zones. And the things we took for granted, the things that were so easy to overlook, the things we tended to gloss over, we are paying attention. Grocery shopping. dining indoors, seeing family, hugging friends, boarding a plane, entering the sanctuary. Turns out these things are worthy of our attention. Turns out these things can feel brand new. Turns out these things are pretty fascinating. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.